On this episode, episode 98 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about flirts, beep tests, and things that Cam likes. So let's get into the show, everybody. Hello, and welcome everybody to another edition, another episode of the Luke Who's Talking podcast, episode 98. We're closing in on episode 99. When is that going to be? Let me tell you when episode 100 is going to be. Episode 100 will be August 5th, according to my calendar, because you're listening to this on the 8th, right? And we don't have an episode next week. And then the one after is the 22nd. And then we won't have one the week after. And then the next one's the 5th. So that should be episode 100. If I've counted... Is this right? Anyway, whatever. That's what it's going to be. Anyway, everybody, let me get into the first story for you. Now, as I've said before on the show, I was about to say a few weeks ago now, as we know, and I'm sure as I have said before, a few weeks or a few days could literally mean anything from a few days to a few weeks to a few months. The scale of time is actually unknown. But it was this year, right? A couple of months ago. I was at a friend's house and moron said friend. No, not... Anyway, look, I was at a friend's house and I had a call from not my doctor, but one of my healthcare people. I'm going to yawn. Why? I don't know. Why? Anyway, so that was fine. And I was on the phone to them. And yeah, it was a jovial phone call, bit of banter. Pretty typical phone call, I would say. Now, when I got off said phone call, my friend whose house I was at, they made a comment. And I thought, oh, okay. Now, they said, you're such a flirt. Like, you're such a flirt on the phone. And I was like, am I? Really? Okay. And then, I'm not sure how, and then things sort of like escalated. Escalated is probably not the right word. Things progressed, our conversations, our social gathering at that point, our social meeting at that point, sort of whatever happened. And things, you got to a point where we were talking about their mum. So we called said person's mum. And I talked to them. And then when I got off the phone, I said, so was I flirt that time? Am I flirt with your mum? And their response to that was less so. So I thought, okay then. Now, last week, the week before actually, more on this coming up, but I was doing some physio stuff and I asked my physio, they're a co-worker of the person who I was a flirt on the phone to. I said, I was talking to this person the other week and I was at a friend's. So I relayed the story to them and I said to them, my friend thought I was a flirt on the phone. What are your thoughts on this? And so she was like, well, I've been, present when you and, this person have been in conversation now. So she was like, so do you want me to tell you if you're flirtatious or not? And I was like, yeah, pretty much. Now, she didn't think so. She didn't think I was flirtatious. But she was like, well, you do have a way with how I use words and such. So I was like, cool. Okay. Yep. So they weren't like, you're such a flirt, but they sort of said that, they wouldn't say, they didn't go as far as to say I was flirtatious, but they, sort of like, well, you do have a way with words, etc. But now, Friday, I was out. Was it Friday? Saturday, I was out. No, it was Friday. I was out with the friend group. soon to be raptured, but more on that probably for next episode. Not tonight, though. And I was talking to another friend, and they were like, well, you're sort of a flirt with me, so maybe I am, but am I only a flirt with guys? I don't know. Is it alarming that I'm not sure, and I don't really know? It probably is. Anyway, now, I know that you, dear listener, you don't send me anything ever. I shouldn't say that, but I received something a couple of weeks ago from a group of listeners. But the thing is, can you send me an email or tweet me or send me a message on Discord or something? Do you think I'm a flirt? Especially if we've spoken in any fashion. I need confirmation on this. I need confirmation. Anyway, into the next anecdote. I think it's not really a story, it's an anecdote. Let's get into that. So, as I mentioned briefly in the first story, I did some physio stuff a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about this last year. I have talked about this before, and that is doing the beep test, or the fitness test. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is something that was done to us in primary school. We probably did it in high school. Yeah, and that is basically there's two cones, and there's a beep, you run to the next cone, there's a beep, you run back to the first cone again, and you just keep doing that. And the beeps, get more frequent. They get closer together. So, of course, you have less time. So you start off with a walk, and then the walk goes to a power walk, to a jog, to a sprint, to a run. Or to a run and then to a sprint. What's the difference? Yeah, there's probably a canter in there as well. But anyway, so basically the beeps get closer together, and you have to run, between the cones. Now, I did one last year, and I got to now the beeps, or the sort of the levels, or whatever you want to call them, top out at 150 on the particular test that I do. Now, the one I do is a little bit different. It's a modified one. So I think we do 10 meters between the cones, which is like 6 steps if you're running, and you've got to slow it up for the cone, so you don't run past it. Anyway, so we did that. So that's the one I do. Now, last year I did one, and I think I got a level 134 last time. So, not that far off, you could say, beating the test. Most definitely closer to the end of the test than what I was to the start of it. Now, this time I did it, and I got to... Now, the physio was like, how do you feel you're going to go? And I was just sort of like, I don't know. I'm not exactly excited by this, because I said that, I felt that I had set a precedent, if I could use that term, previously by doing quite well. Why am I yawning? Seriously, quite a precedent by doing pretty well before. And I was like, I'm going to be, I have to get to that level again, sort of thing. Anyway, now I didn't though. I only got that. I'll say I got to level 131 this time. And the physio had a couple of theories on why that was the case. But she was generally happy because of the consistency. She was like, well, you're consistent. You haven't gone from 134 to 120 or whatever. Not that far off, 3 sort of spots off. Now, I probably could have kept going. Actually, I think when I did the test last time, the physio actually stopped me, because you're allowed to miss a cone twice. But anyway, so I did a beep test, and I didn't die. Last time, this is some great cross promotion. I did record it and put it up on the vlog. So if you hop over to YouTube, Luke Who's Vlogging, there is a video on the beep test, and I can't quite remember if I talked about it on the podcast as well. I might have. I could go through the spreadsheet here to see, but there's a a possibility that I did, and I'm going back. I don't know. It's a possibility, but yeah. Anyway, everybody, let's get into the last story for you because the podcast is dragging on. We got to get it. We got to shut it down. So now, when I was out on the Friday, and we're just talking now. A friend of their, some dude, a third date situation, they came and we were having a bit of a talk to them, and my friend was like, yeah, so Luke does a podcast. And one of my friends there was like, he sort of said it's anecdotes really, of sort of life things, etc. Which I think maybe I could change the name of the podcast to Luke Who's Anecdoting. But anyway, now this particular person who they were like, yeah, it's anecdotes and such, and then they went into a bit of a, I won't say a riff, but they dropped a piece of information which I thought was interesting. And they said that they listened to the podcast, like after we've had sort of like a group outing, as well, it's been a social outing. Now, like, they listened to the podcast to see how I reference that, or if I reference that in episodes. So you're out there, you know who you are. So this reference to the social outing is because mainly they made a reference that I liked, that they like to listen to the podcast to see what references I make about social outings are. Does that make sense? I don't know. But anyway, so this is for you. This is you, Yoda. No, Obi, that's it. Obi-Wan. Or Ewan McGregor or whatever. I made a comment about the person's beard because they I would probably describe it as they had long stubble. Or no, a short beard, you could probably say, but they've given it a bit of growth, and I was like, "Yep, looks good." And they were like, "Yeah, I'm Obi," and I'm like, "Okay." Ewan McGregor from the apparently awful Star Wars films from the late 90s, the early 2000s, the second trilogy. Yeah. Anyway, everybody, let's references. Let's wrap it up. Well, everybody, look, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Look, it should be more popular. That's my friend and I, we both agreed that the podcast should be more popular than what it is. Why aren't I why aren't I Joe Rogan? I'm not a jerk like him. So there you go. He's like, I don't know, it just seems like a bit of a tosser, if I'm honest, Joe Ro. Anyway, look, yeah, like, subscribe, share it, all that jazz. I'm on Twitter. There's an email as well. And yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.